Well, this story in the Herald this morning certainly caught our eye. As we heard a couple of weeks ago in Parliament, the New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian said in regards to Willow Grove, the historic house there in Parramatta, which looks like due to be demolished to make way for the building of the new Powerhouse Museum. She was asked about it in Parliament. She said, in the tender documents, every organisation that showed an interest in building the Powerhouse Museum was asked on behalf of the citizens to consider protecting Willow Grove. Our intention always was that if we could save the historic house, we would.
And we should tell you, if you don't know the house, it's an 1886 Italianate villa, much loved by the locals, and I guess an important part of Parramatta heritage.
Yeah, and in April of last year, we were interviewing the Arts Minister, Don Harwin, about this very same topic. Here's a little from that exchange.
It's on the riverbank. It's between Church Street and Wild Avenue. It was once the old David Jones car park, and it includes some other parcels of land that are adjacent. Willow Grove and St George's Terrace are part of the site.
Oh, right, so they will be demolished.
No, we haven't said that at all. In fact, we're encouraging the architects that at the moment have expressed interest in being part of the design process to see how they can take all of the heritage considerations of those two parcels of land into consideration in the design that they come up with.
I'm looking at these photographs on the Royal Australian Historical Society website. They're suggesting that these buildings, Willow Grove and St George's Terrace, would be demolished under your plans. Is that true?
Well, I regret to say that they haven't done their homework.
Well, were the architects encouraged to try and retain Willow Grove on the site for the new Powerhouse Museum? It seems not.
Yeah, we're hearing this morning that the Stage 2 design brief prepared by Create New South Wales, which was finally released on Monday, did not push for the retention of the villa. It instead urged designers to consider its removal. The quote in the paper, to enable the best museum outcome and support the civic link, we are requesting all submissions consider the removal of Willow Grove, should it be required, the brief said. Well, that has been jumped on by the opposition, and we're joined by the New South Wales opposition leader, Jodie McKay. Good morning.
Good morning, Robbie.
All right, your response to what we're hearing this morning?
Well, it's pretty clear that both the Premier and the Minister lied. They lied when they went to the election, saying that Willow Grove would be kept, and they've lied now in regard to the Stage 2 design briefs, which, as you said, were released yesterday. The Premier stood in that Parliament and answered a question we asked her on February 6th, and she said, and there was no... there was nothing about what she said that left us with any belief that this was a lie, let me say that. But what she said was that we would do all we could. We went to the design and we asked them to consider protecting Willow Grove on behalf of the citizens of New South Wales. That wasn't the case. And once we've looked at this design brief, of course, we realised that she did lie. She actually misled the Parliament, and that is very serious when you mislead the Parliament, and particularly in regard to this building, because it has a special significance in Parramatta. It was a maternity hospital. It dates back to the 1870s, 1880s, and it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful building, but she lied twice about it, and so did the Minister.
Is there any wiggle room here for the government, though, that perhaps, they say, they had an original brief, I guess, and then a second stage brief, perhaps the thoughts about the villa changed along the way?
No, there's not, because she stood in the Parliament and she clearly said that on behalf of the citizens of New South Wales, we have asked the designers to consider protecting. When you look at the document, it's the complete opposite to that. It actually says we're requesting all submissions to consider the removal of Willow Grove.
That is Stage 2, though. I mean, could there have been a change between Stage 1 when I know I'm hypothesising?
Yes, but can I just say, Robbie, this was a comment she made on February February 6th. This is just 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we asked her, that question was in relation to the commitment that she made going into the election to protect it. Now, she left us, as I said, with there was no there was nothing but what I'm trying to say is that we knew from her comment, we believed from her comment that they had asked the designers to consider saving Willow Grove. They didn't. They asked them to consider removing Willow Grove. And I think that's what people are so upset about, what residents are so upset about. They want this building saved, but they know the Premier has now lied twice in relation to this building, once in the lead up to the election and once now in relation to the Stage 2 design brief. And it doesn't matter whether it's Stage 1 or Stage 2. She stood in that parliament and she said, we asked them to save it. She didn't. They asked them to remove it.
Okay, we should mention that we did invite the Premier onto the program this morning and we haven't heard back, and we did invite the Arts Minister, Don Harwin, as well.
And there are some on our text line here, Jody, saying that you're making hay out of this, but you don't really care about Willow Grove, or the powerhouse. You just, are trying to catch the Premier out. What do you say to that?
No, not at all. We have been very firm on our position on the Powerhouse Museum. We had that position from day one when they indicated that they were going to remove or move the Powerhouse Museum from Ultimo to Parramatta. We actually believe that Parramatta deserves a world-class cultural arts and heritage precinct. Suzette Mead, who's with the North Parramatta Residents Group, has an idea which I like, which is about using the Women's Factory and looking at our First Nations people history and their disposition and the convict history of this state, which I think is a terrific idea. There are other options here. This is $1.5 billion to move a museum that doesn't need to be moved, and it's now based on deception.
Thank you for that, Jody. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Wendy.
Jody McKay there, the New South Wales opposition leader. You heard the name Suzette Mead mentioned. She's a key member of the North Parramatta Residents Action Group and Friends of Parramatta Park. They have been campaigning tirelessly to keep Willow Grove. I can't imagine that you are very happy this morning, Suzette.
Oh, Wendy, we are livid in Parramatta, I think is even an understatement, but not surprised.
Okay, so what did you understand about this?
Look, the residents have been calling this out since 2018. We had a rally at Willow Grove. We had a petition collect 13,000 signatures in 5 days saying do not demolish Willow Grove, and we were told by the government we were scaremongering, and that wasn't the case. As each step goes, we're told, just relax, don't be silly, we're saving it, you're wrong, which is like a really big slap in the face to us every time that this happens, that Western Sydney is just treated like fools.
Just give us the thumbnail sketch of why you're so keen to retain this. I mean, the plan that we see for the new Powerhouse Museum on paper, it looks really impressive, really quite beautiful. It's, I guess, the argument moving Parramatta into the future and giving it a fantastic new attraction there. Why are you spending so much time trying to save this old building?
Because there's so many other places that it could go and be even more successful. Parramatta's heritage built and natural and heritage environmental areas are just being developed at a rapid pace. And I think it's us as custodians in this generation to hold on to this so we have some great narratives about Parramatta. And it's not just its built form. As the opposition leader just mentioned, it is a real social importance to Parramatta because there's thousands of people that were born here. You stand out the front of Willow Grove and people will stop and tell you that their mother was born there or their aunt. Everyone knows someone that was born at Willow Grove.
Well, where to from here for you, Suzette?
Pardon, where to?
Yep.
Look, we got a lot of messages last night. People want to start marching at Macquarie Street. And I've got to tell you, Parramatta is not a big protesting rally demographic. And I'm getting people from all political cross sections calling me who normally would battle us on heritage, saying, no, we're with you on this. Willow Grove needs to stay. the Premier must stop lying to Parramatta and start listening to Parramatta.
So
this can be really successful.
Is it a case of while it still stands, there's hope?
100%. 100%.
Right.
This is not over. We're fighting hard.
All
and
right.
we want all of Sydney to jump on this. It's Australia's identity, not Parramatta.
Okay. Thank you, Suzette. Suzette Mead, who is a key member of the North Parramatta Residents Actions Group and Friends of Parramatta Park. And like I mentioned, we did invite the Premier Gladys Berejiklian and the Arts Minister Don Harwin onto the program this morning, but haven't heard back.
Well, there are many aspects, of course, to the stoush over the relocation of the Powerhouse Museum and the projected demolition of Willow Grove. And I guess lots of people have different opinions about whether the Powerhouse should be moved or not, how important that heritage building is, that historic site at Willow Grove. But the one thing, I guess, that's bobbed up here is who told what to who. I mean, has been told in this particular saga, and that's what the Premier is being accused of this morning by the opposition leader, Jodie McKay.
Well, it's pretty clear that both the Premier and the Minister lied. They lied when they went to the election, saying that Willow Grove would be kept, and they've lied now in regard to the Stage 2 design briefs, which, as you said, were released yesterday. The Premier stood in that Parliament and answered a question we asked her on February 6th, and she said that there was nothing about what she said that left us with any belief that this was a lie, let me say that. But what she said was that we would do all we could. We went to the design and we asked them to consider protecting Willow Grove on behalf of the citizens of New South Wales. That wasn't the case. She actually misled the Parliament.
So what the Leader of the Opposition is referring to is a statement that was made in Parliament just under a fortnight ago, where the Premier Gladys Berejiklian said, in the tender documents, every organisation that showed an interest in building the Powerhouse Museum was asked, on behalf of the citizens, to consider protecting Willow Grove. Our intention always was that if we could save the historic house, we would. And then we've learnt from documents that have been released this week, the Stage 2 design brief that was prepared by Create New South Wales did not push for the retention of the 1886 villa, known as Willow Grove. Instead, it urged designers to consider its removal. To enable the best museum outcome and support the civic link, we are requesting all submissions consider the removal of Willow Grove should it be required. Now, to respond to that, we are joined this morning by the New South Wales Arts Minister. Don Harwin joins us. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Robbie. Good morning, Wendy. How are you?
We are well, thank you.
Excellent.
We have to put this to you. Have you lied?
No, I reject that outright. I have not lied, and nor has the Premier.
Okay, tell us why you're saying that. Because on paper here, this article that's in the Herald this morning, when you read it, you think, well, come on, that does sound like lying.
Well, it's a monumental beat-up, frankly. It's focusing in on one sentence and forgetting, of course, there was a Stage 1 brief and a Stage 2 brief, and right through both documents, it makes it very clear to people who are interested in participating in the design competition that there were heritage considerations that they needed to think through. And there was also another matter they had to think through, and that was Parramatta Council's aspiration to have a civic link right through the centre of the CBD from the railway station to the river. So there were conflicting considerations in the brief, and the designers were asked to do their best, come up with the best design, and in my opinion, that's exactly what's happened.
Yes, but look, I would like to play you a little bit of our interview from April of last year, where we put this issue to you, and I'd like to get your response on the back of this. So this is you speaking on our show April last year about this very same topic, about Willow Grove and will it be retained. Here's what was said.
It's on the riverbank. It's between Church Street and Wild Avenue. It was once the old David Jones car park, and it includes some other parcels of land that are adjacent. Willow Grove and St George's Terrace are part of the site.
Oh, right, so they will be demolished.
No, we haven't said that at all. In fact, we're encouraging the architects that at the moment have expressed interest in being part of the design process to see how they can take all of the heritage considerations of those two parcels of land into consideration in the design that they come up with.
I'm looking at these photographs on the Royal Australian Historical Society website. They're suggesting that these buildings, Willow Grove and St George's Terrace, would be demolished under your plans. Is that true?
Well, I regret to say that they haven't done their homework.
Well, it looks like maybe they did do their homework, Minister.
In April last year, when the design competition was starting, it was totally inaccurate for the architects to be saying that it was definitely going. It was open to architects to retain both in the designs they come up with, and in fact, one of them did.
You, the brief that you gave on, and this is a design on stage 2, said we are requesting that all submissions consider the removal of Willow Grove should it be required. That is
Should it be required?
Yes, but
That's
that is
actually the key
Minister.
part
But it
of
is
the sentence, Wendy.
But you said that you were encouraging people to retain the building, to look at retaining the building. Now, those two statements beside each other don't seem to gel to me.
Well, I think it's a bit of a semantic argument, to be perfectly frank. It's two sides of the same coin.
Well, I have to tell you that the locals don't see it that way. This is Suzette Mead from the Parramatta Action Group this morning, and she is very unhappy with proceedings.
As each step goes, we're told, just relax, don't be silly, we're saving it, you're wrong, which is like a really big slap in the face to us every time that this happens, that Western Sydney is just treated like fools. We got a lot of messages last night. People want to start marching at Macquarie Street. I've got to tell you, Parramatta is not a big protesting rally demographic. And I'm getting people from all political cross-sections calling me who normally would battle us on heritage, saying, no, we're with you on this. Willow Grove needs to stay. The Premier must stop lying to Parramatta and start listening to Parramatta.
So what do you say to that? Obviously, the residents unhappy.
Well, with respect to Suzette, at no time has any promise been made to save Willow Grove and St George's Terrace.
Well, I just played you some. I just played you audio there, though, Minister, where I put it to you in April last year. Is it going to be demolished? And you basically said no. So you can understand.
I think that's with respect a mischaracterisation of what I said, Robbie.
Okay. Well, I'll play it for you again if you want. And I guess what we're talking about is impressions of what's coming from the government. I mean, here's a little of that conversation. Here we go.
Yep.
That they come up with.
I'm looking at these photographs on the Royal Australian Historical Society website. They're suggesting that these buildings, Willow Grove and St George's Terrace, would be demolished under your plans. Is that true?
Well, I regret to say that they haven't done their homework.
Okay, that is suggesting that they're not going to be demolished. Am I right?
No, it was giving an accurate answer at a particular point in time. But look, Robbie, I think what we're losing in this discussion is excuse me, sorry.
That's all right.
What we're losing in this discussion is a focus on what actually Parramatta is getting. It's getting an extraordinary 21st century museum. It's going to be without doubt, the best science and technology museum in Australia. It's going to be a fit-for-purpose building. It's going to have extraordinarily large exhibition spaces. It's going to be a wonderful place to showcase the great collection that the museum has.
Well, with respect, though, Minister, that's not really, as I flagged at the beginning of this, that's not really at issue. What is at issue here is the idea that you are telling one group of people one thing and then you're telling another group another. Like you're telling the public and the citizens of Parramatta that every endeavour will be made to encourage the retention of these historic buildings, and then you are behind their back telling architects that they should look at demolishing those buildings. These two
that's not actually what's happened, Wendy. And as I said earlier in this interview, in fact, one of the architects did put the retention of Willow Grove in his design, and another architect put the retention of St George's Terrace in his design. So I think, with respect to you, that just demonstrates that what's being said right now, what was in the Sydney Morning Herald this morning, is wrong.
Okay, that's wrong.
So
Okay.
are you saying, is this article incorrect in saying that the Stage 2's design brief are you saying that it did not include...
No, what I'm saying is that the Stage 2 design brief made very clear that heritage considerations were to be taken, and that were to be taken into consideration, and that it was open to the architects to either keep or not keep those buildings.
But it says here, to enable the best museum outcomes and support the civic link, we are requesting all submissions consider the removal of Willow Grove, should it be required.
Or keep it if required.
Right.
That's exactly, or keep it if possible. They were the two options that designers had to look at.
Are you disappointed, though, that we are going to lose such a critical piece of heritage in Parramatta?
Well, I prefer to focus on what actually Parramatta and indeed New South Wales is gaining, which is the best science and technology museum in Australia, a 21st century museum, a digital-enabled museum, one that's really going to inspire and excite the people who visit it.
Okay. One other thing we should mention, Minister, we're with Don Harwin, who's the New South Wales Arts Minister. A lot of people were very alarmed to see that site was very, very much impacted by floods recently. And we did speak to the CEO there of the new project, and she said the final works hadn't been done on flood mitigation yet. Where are we at with that?
Well, the whole design has been done taking into account the statewide requirements on a building in similar sites, which is that whatever is being built must be above the 1 in 100-year flood level. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, the recent 24-hour inundation, which is the way water tends to flow through the Parramatta River, was well below where the ground level of the museum is, which is up at Phillip Street level. Okay. So it wasn't. So in fact, the museum where it will be built was not impacted at all by recent flood inundation.
So the car park where the site is slated for, that car park did flood. But
yes, that's because the car park is built at the river level, or very close to the river level, whereas the museum will be built much higher.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Right? So I mean, I do understand people have concerns about that, and obviously the director's comments were true. As part of the EIS process, the water issues will be looked at again. That's normal. And it's not unusual. It's in fact what would happen with every development.
But I guess the question is asked: why would you be looking at the water issues, after the fact and costing those after the fact? Well, I can
promise you that we're not looking at them after the fact. It's just the curious way that the development assessment process works. Obviously, we've done all that work already, but in New South Wales, when you actually put the development application in, you look at it all over again.
Okay.
All right. And
that's just the way it is for any development.
Okay.
And just finally, can you give us an idea of timeframes for the building and I guess the demolition as well?
We can't give you a time frame for the demolitions. Mm-hmm. That's not known yet. That will be a matter that's related to the development application process. And look, it's proceeding as we hoped it would, but we can't give you a final completion date until we have a builder.
Okay.
It's just a fact of life.
Right.
We can give you an estimate, but the builder is the key component of when something's completed.
Of course, many people think that this is a bit of an example of the tail wagging the dog, that there is, we're going to put the powerhouse in Parramatta because we have our eye on the site in Ultimo. Gee, I'm imagining you reject that.
Absolutely. And I've said publicly that the entire Ultimo Power Station will be retained as cultural use. That is what I'm planning for, and there will be cultural uses there.
Okay. I'm sure we will chat about it again. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Good on you. New South Wales Arts Minister Don Harwin and his response to, well, the article that's in the Herald this morning, but of course also the allegations put by the opposition leader Jodie McKay earlier this morning that the Premier had essentially misled Parliament.
Well, you heard there the minister say that the article in the Sydney Morning Herald is wrong.